Hey there, welcome back. How did last week go with C major? Hopefully you felt comfortable doing all those different exercises because now we're going to do those same exercises, but we're moving on to G major. I don't expect everybody to really feel like they've mastered a key in just 1 week, but it's really good to get a taste of every key, and then after the 12 weeks, you can go back and take the time to really perfect these exercises. Remember that we're doing the scale and arpeggio in each major key, along with an interval and chord inversion exercise, topped off with a piece to learn in that key of the week. As a reminder, you have that challenge tracker that you can download below. And I think that's it. We're going to start right now. For the next 5 weeks, we're focusing on the sharp key signatures. Every time we learn a new key, I'll go through all of the exercises with you, but I'm also going to give you pointers and tips to improve whatever we're working on at the moment. Last week, we talked about C major with no sharps or flats, and today we'll focus on G major, and this key has 1 sharp. So let's figure out what sharp that is. To figure it out, we need to build a major scale starting on G. You remember our pattern of whole and half steps to build a major scale, right? So we start on G, then we go up a whole step, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. Okay, so this is different, isn't it? Here's F, and the note we need to play in order to stick to the pattern is this key right here, which means there's an F sharp in the key of G major. And we can finish it off with our half step. So here are the 7 notes in G major. Before we move on, we need to talk about key signatures. So key signatures are groups of sharps or flats, and they're placed at the beginning of each staff, right after the clef symbol. Each key signature represents a different major key. So when we're in C major, you'll see nothing there because there are no sharps or flats. In the case of G major, we know it has 1 sharp, F sharp, and to represent that, its key signature has a sharp on the F line in the treble clef and a sharp on the F line here in the bass clef. But all Fs are sharp, even if you do a really low F that's off the staff or a really high F. All Fs. So whenever you see this signature, you know you're in G major. Short disclaimer, if you see this key signature, there's a chance that you might actually be in E minor, which shares a key signature with G major, but don't worry about that yet. We're going to cover that in a different challenge when we get to the minor keys. Now, the last thing I want to say about key signatures is that the sheet music or score doesn't usually remind you what is supposed to be sharp or flat. It just shows you the key signature, and then it's up to you to remember throughout the entire piece that all the Fs are supposed to be sharp. Okay, so let's learn or review the scale. This is a group 1 scale, which means it has the exact same fingering as the C major scale. So that's a big bonus. It makes it a lot easier. We already know our notes in the scale, so let's see the right hand slowly. Then the left hand. And finally, hands together. Now, when you practice these, I challenge you to start right away with hands together. Is it more difficult than playing hands separately? Yes. Are you saving yourself an unneeded and sometimes unhelpful step? Also, yes. If you're struggling with hands together, try to pretend that each note is a whole note. So you'll play, then count to 4. Because while you're holding the note, you have time to think. Okay, so what are you thinking about? You're thinking about what's coming next. What do you need to do to move to the next note? Is it a crossover? Is it a cross under? Is it a white key? Is it a black key? So in my opinion, this is the far superior way to start practicing hands together. It's challenging, but you can do it. Now, the G arpeggio is also in group 1, so it shares the same fingering as the C major arpeggio. Here's the right hand. Here's the left hand. And then here's hands together. As you're learning your scale and arpeggio, if you find you've got a good handle on it after just a few practice sessions, then I want you to go back and forth between C and G major. You want your brain and your fingers to get used to switching gears quickly. Okay, on to our interval exercise. Remember that we're starting with our right thumb or our left pinky on the first note of the scale. Then we play each interval melodically or separated, going up, and then on the way down, we play the harmonic version. After we complete this up and down, we move our bottom note up a step to A and then repeat it again. We repeat this all the way until we get to our bottom note being the F sharp. And so make sure that whenever you come across an F sharp in any of your intervals, you're always playing F sharp, not F. I'm going to show you the entire exercise with my left hand just to make sure that everything is clear. Remember that you can speed up or slow down the video in the settings here. And then here's the beginning of the right hand. And our final exercise, the 1, 4, and 5 chords inverted in the key of G. And remember, we use Roman numerals to specify these numbers. As a review, the 1 chord is built on the first note in the scale, in this case, G. The 4 chord is built on the 4th scale degree, which is C, and the 5 chord is built on D, the 5th scale degree. Now, if you first thought that the D major chord would look like this on all white keys, I want you to think about why I'm playing this black key here instead. Do you know why? It's because of the key signature in G major. All Fs must be sharp. Okay, so now that we have our 1, 4, and 5 chord, we can do the actual exercise. So here's the 1 chord in root position, first inversion, second inversion, then back down to first, root, and then we go to our 4 chord, root, first, second, first, root, then our 5 chord, root, first, second, first, root. And remember that we're lifting our hands and moving to each chord, not sliding. Also, listen to make sure that your chords are being played firmly with all of the notes sounding at the exact same time. If they're not and you can't quite figure out why, take a look at the shape your hand is making. So there's a good chance that your third finger, which is the longest finger, is poking down lower than your pinky and your thumb. So if that's the case, you need to think about getting your fingers on the same level. And honestly, that's part of the reason that we play with a curved hand position, because then they can all be more equal. Today, we're learning an arrangement of the famous Lullaby by Brahms. Just like last week, I have a whole list of pieces in the key of G that are at different levels, so feel free to pick one that suits you or feel free to find one on your own. I've got either the download or a link to download in the description below. So let's preview these pieces right now. Now, this lullaby that we're learning together is in the beginner to late beginner category. And you're ready to tackle this piece if you know about eighth notes and your other common note values, pickup notes, and 3/4 time. Okay, so we have our left hand finger 2 on B, right hand finger 2 on D, and you'll notice that our thumbs are sharing middle C. And this is why it's called middle C position. So honestly, I have mixed feelings about this position because it feels really awkward sometimes with your thumbs on one key. But try it out, let me know how it works for you. It's in a ton of method books. If the middle C is written in the bass clef, then you're going to play it with your left hand. And if it's written in the treble clef, you're going to play it with your right hand. Make sure that your right hand finger 4 is always resting on F sharp, since we're in the key of G. And so that means you might have to kind of move your hand in towards the fallboard a little bit more so it can rest easily. So the nice thing is once you're in this hand position, you're ready to go and you don't have to move out of it for the entire piece. All right, so we're in 3/4 time and we start with pickup notes. So let's practice the first part together slowly while we count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1 and 2 and this is a lullaby. So make sure that after you get the rhythm and the notes really secure, that you work to make the sound very soft, very gentle and smooth, aka legato. Also, I noticed that sometimes students don't always pick up their fingers all the way on repeated notes, and they get kind of stuck in the key. So make sure that on each repeated note, the key gets a chance to come all the way up so that you can go all the way back down and have a clean attack on each note. Once you've learned it, it should sound something like this. So there you have it. That's the key of G major. Congratulations on getting through another major key. I hope you're getting a better understanding of how these key signatures work and why we have keys. Just remember to stay consistent. I know you're going to do great this week with G major. If in doubt, always practice slower rather than faster, and I'll see you next week.